It's always a privilege to stand at the front. And well, thank you again for all the youth as well to be involved in this program. And to Sean, thank you for that message. It was really, I think you covered most of my points as well, so I don't even need to speak. Thanks. Okay, so I think the importance of purpose, Sean has talked about more and more, but I want to focus on what we can learn actually in our real life now. How does this imply to our daily life as we go through life, our work, our study, anything? How does this purpose apply to our lives? So let's get straight into this. Okay, so actually before that, when I first got asked to do this sermon, it was supposed to be Sean and someone else, and I wasn't supposed to be speaking. And I was pretty hesitant when I first got asked to do this because for me, I was still questioning as well, why am I here? Okay. And the one question that always comes is this: how can I be sure that what I'm doing now is what God wants me to do? How can I be so certain that what I do for a living, what my job is or what my study is what God actually wants me to do? For those who don't know me well, I actually just finished studying last year, and it's been a big journey in the past year. Trying to find a job and working part-time, trying to find a job, and at the end I got a job. At the end of last year, I started working in one of the leading technology company in Sydney, and I was happy, right? When you got a job, you're happy. You go to the first few weeks, you're like, oh, so this is how it feels to work. You know, I never worked before. I've been studying for whole life, so I never had that experience before. But as soon as the first few days, even or first few weeks, this question comes again. Okay. How can I be sure that what I'm doing now is what God wants me to do? But as I prepare for this little sermon, it really helped me to think about this question and to explore why is it that we're doing what we're doing right now. And I hope to share a few of my findings with you today. So the Oxford Dictionary defines purpose as the reason for which something is done, the reason for which something is created, or the reason for which something exists. So it's as simple as, what are you here for? And that is basically the meaning of purpose, right? And from Sean's talk, we understand that we are created for something more. But for the people that live right here in this world right now, that seems to be what the purpose of life is. Okay? It's only to study, to get a job, to earn good money, get married, have few kids, retire well, and that's it, right? And you die at the end. So that's what people think of life is. But as Sean said before, there is more to life than this. And he concluded that we are called to glorify God who has created us through living the best life that we can be and being a blessing to others with the talents that we have. So this is what our purpose is. Okay? But in life, the business that life has, it's so easy to lose focus, right? It's so easy to know now, and by the time we go home, or by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, you have lost everything that you learned today. Because, there's so much thing that goes on in life. There's so much up and downs that goes on as well. There might be the countless assignments that you have to finish, all the deadlines from work that you have to meet, the sad reality that your body starts to falter, or even broken relationships, right? So this is the things, all of these things can really make you unfocused on what your purpose is in life. And it makes it extremely hard for us to, stay on the right path or to really focus on what our purpose is. But the amazing thing about the Bible, there is a different story, or there's different verses for each of our situation in life, right? And this is no different. Being confused in life or being not knowing where to go is one that one thing that Bible also covers as well. And today, we're actually going to look at one of the story in the Bible, which is Joseph. And we want to learn that how we can learn from Joseph, from the life of Joseph, to ensure ourselves that we can fulfill our purpose right here in this world. And I'm sure most of you know the story of Joseph. It's one of the longest story in the Bible, probably. It spans from Genesis 37 to Genesis 50. And we're going to read all of them. We won't read all of them. But I'll just keep it short, right? So, this is Joseph. He was a special boy. He had a lot of things that goes on in his life. He was handsome. He was born to a family that has a really big family, actually. But he was special because he was the firstborn of Jacob through the wife that he really wanted, okay, through Rachel. And therefore, he was his favorite son. He lives a life that is really nice and smooth. His father would provide everything for him, good food, and he also made special treatments compared to his brothers, right? And we know that from this garment is a special garment that was specifically made by the father for him. So people call him Joseph the Dreamer because he dreams, he has a lot of dreams, and those dreams actually made himself feel good, right? So if you know two of his dreams is that all of his brothers, all of his dad, all of his whole family would actually bow down to him. But we might not realize that there's actually a way that God was trying to instill to Joseph of what his purpose was. This was his purpose. But he didn't know that, right? He at that moment he just think, oh, that's a really good dream. I really want that to happen. But it only took a few hours to change his whole life. As I said before, he has 11 brothers who are all jealous of him. So they seize him, they strip him from his garments, or from his favorite garment that his dad specifically made for him, and they threw him into a pit. And not only that, they sold Joseph to some traders who were going to a land called Egypt. He was forced to live all of that comfortable life. He was forced to live all the good life that he has, and he has to go to an unknown land. And how frightening that must have been for a boy who was only 17 years old. And can you imagine how it must have felt for him, going to know that his brothers, the one that's supposed to love him, the one that's supposed to take care of him, hate him that much, that they would sell him for money. The book Patriarchs and Prophets said this: accustomed to the tenderness of his father's care, he felt that he was unprepared to cope with the difficulties that is before him. Joseph was really terrified, and in all his life he was always have this father figure who watched over all of his steps. But that's gone now. He's alone. Yet God has a funny way of working things out. When he entered Egypt, he got bought by Potiphar, one of the leading general there in Egypt, and he works in the house, and then at the end, as you may know, that was him, become the prince of Egypt. And in time, through all of the God that he provided and God's guidance, he became an authority figure in Egypt. So that's Joseph's life on a snapshot. And when I look at Joseph, he was one of these characters in the Bible that has a lot of things that goes on in his life, right? He has up, down, and I just did this graph to just show what happens in this life. Yet, one thing that you never see in the Bible is that he actually complained. He has never complained as he goes through this life. He just pushed forward, he trusted in his God, and he knows that at the end, all the things that he experienced will count for something. What an amazing character, right? And today I'm going to share 3 things that I learned from Joseph in regards to purpose, or having purpose in your life. So the first point is this: you are where you are for a reason. And Joseph had to go through all of these different circumstances in his life for a reason. And we can see clearly in each step of his life, there was a reason why he had to undergo this event. And from being sold to his brothers, from being tempted by Potiphar's wife, and got thrown into the prison, and at the end became the ruler of Egypt. But this is the same to us as well, because at the moment you might go through different things in life. You might be in a place where you know what your purpose is, and you have this dream of life that you want to achieve. Or you might be in a place where you don't know what your purpose is, but you're happy with your life. There's a different kind of combination that can happen in your life, right? But just like you might be unsure about things that you are going in your life, and just like Joseph would feel when he was undergoing each of these. But one thing that we know is this: God was in control, even when it seems that your world is spinning madly out of control. And that was the case in Joseph's life. And also, I just want to go to this verse by Apostle Paul in the book of Philippians 4:6-7. It says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." And I believe this was something that Joseph did. There is no mistake in where God has you, and we just need to allow Him to use you where you are. And I think this is really important because as you go through life, you get to different places, right? You get to different circumstances, and sometimes you're not happy with it, right? It's like, oh, I have this dream life, but why am I here, not here, right? That's not what I wanted. But just always think of this. You are where you are for a reason. God is trying to teach you something in whatever situation you are currently. Okay, so the next thing is this: delay and setback builds characters. And I got this lesson from the fact that Joseph was thrown into prison, right? And he spent, I think, more than 3 years in the prison. But he went to the prison without his fault, right? As you all may know, what was the reason was that Potiphar's wife said that he wanted to sleep with her, and at the end, Potiphar was really hungry and put him into prison, right? But you see that there is no delay. It's not up and down straight away. There was a pause of 2 years in here. And what happened was there in the middle, he actually interpreted a dream, right? And he said to one of the guys, like, oh, remember me when you go out. But he had to wait 2 more years before he actually went out. Before that guy actually remembered of him. And 2 years is a long time, right? But what I want to look at is what happened, what do you think happened during that time in the prison? Do you think Joseph lost his sight of purpose? Or did he use the opportunity to build his character? And the only way for us to see that is to see what happened after he walked out. So this is what happened after he walked out. The Pharaoh had a dream. They said that, this Joseph guy can interpret dreams. So he went to Pharaoh, and the first thing that he said to him was, I cannot do it. Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. You can see straight away that there is his reliance on God. There is this connection that happens between him and God. And not only that, it goes further. This was summed up by Pharaoh in this. After he interpreted his dream, he said, can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? He was in one spirit with God. That's how close he was. He uses that time in the prison to really focus on God. He didn't use it to lose or become unfocused of what he was supposed to do, but he held tight to God. So disappointments are vital to spiritual growth because they demand faith and resting all hope upon God. So when you go through that period of life where you think that, oh, nothing is going on in my life, like I want to be somewhere but I'm still here. I'm like 2 years behind what my schedule was in life, But there's these things that will build your character, and that is one of them. Disappointments, setbacks, delays will help you to build your characters further. Raymond Edmonds said, delay never thwarts God's purposes. It only polices His instrument. So when we undergo delay or setback in life, don't lose focus, but instead remember that these things are necessary in order for Him to fulfill your purpose. And Romans 8:28, the verse that Angelica read before, said this, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. So as you undergo different period in your life, or you undergo difficult circumstance in your life, follow the example of Joseph. Right? Use the delays and use that setbacks in your life as an opportunity to build your characters for the better. And you should do that instead of losing your focus on Jesus. And the last point that I got, which might be the most easiest to get as you go through this story, is this: trust God fully no matter what. So the last lesson that we learned today is this: Joseph dreamed to be a leader, yet he became a slave. But even in that moment where he was so uncertain of what was going on in his life, he didn't lose of that purpose. He kept on trusting Him. And we can see that as soon as Joseph actually left his family. So in the book of Character and Prophet, it says, then his thought turned into his father's God. In his childhood, he had been taught to love and fear Him. Now all the precious lessons came vividly before him. Joseph believed that the God of his fathers would be his God. He then and there gave himself full to the Lord. And he prayed that the keeper of Israel would be with him in the land of his exile. He gave himself fully to the Lord and he prayed. Okay? So in Joseph, we recognize that the evidence of purposeful divine guidance in your life, or the divine influence in your life, it's like a lift that goes through, river, right? He never fight against that current. He just follows it. And that was what Joseph did. With each event that came into his life, he submitted more instead of resisting. He submitted more to his God. And as a result, God used Joseph to accomplish a very important purpose that He has for His nation back then, which is Israel. And He had planned beforehand that Joseph will be able to sustain his whole family in the land of Egypt. And he didn't give the glory to himself, and he gave the glory to God. So we learned that our purpose is to glorify God, but you might not really know how to do that purpose, right? At work or at school, how can I do it? But the first thing that you can do is that you actually need to know the one who gives you that purpose. And like Joseph, in all of the circumstances that he has in his life, he fully trusted on God. And why is submitting to God important? Because I found this verse in Proverbs. It says, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. So, in order for us to live our life correctly, or in order for us to live our life in the right way, we not only have to plan, but we have to plan to God's purpose. We have to find out what He wants in your life. And only through that, then you can really plan your life according to His purpose and to achieve it. So Joseph had a defined purpose. His life was not easy. He was filled with up and down, as you can see on the graph. Yet Joseph submitted to God, and He allowed Him to use him wherever he was. And it is the same with us today. We are that God that was working towards with Joseph is the same God that you and I are serving right now. And as Joseph faithfully lived his life, we are also called to do the same. We are called to do this in order for us to be able to fulfill what our purpose is. And as you go this afternoon, I want you to think about these two questions. Where does God want to use you? And the second thing is, what is His divine purpose for your life? Because me and Sean can only share. It's on you. It's on your own decision that you will decide what to do with your life. And take that time to actually think about these things, because this is really important. And if you are still unsure, and if you are still confused of what God was trying to achieve in your life and why things go wrong in your life, I want to leave you with this verse. Isaiah 55 verse 8 to 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You see here, God is encouraging us to rely on Him regardless what our situation is at the moment. And that God, currently your life might turn to some things that you really hate, or some things that you know that you don't want to go. But you might be in the phase of life as well where you are confused. But just like Joseph, remember that He is able, and He's able to bring you out into a better place than we could have ever imagined. Because God's purpose for us, God's purpose for you, is wider, deeper, and higher than your limited vision has ever imagined. From that verse, this is what we have. Because His ways are so much higher than yours. So as you go through life, as you try to find what your purpose is, always remember this. What does God want you to achieve in your life? And look at Him and see where He leads you.